Good morning. It's Friday, April 17th. Thank you for joining me for this video blog. Our passage for this morning is from the book of Revelation, and we've been studying all week the gospel story. We've been focusing in on three main themes. God made a people for himself, God made a place for his people to live, and God has provided his own presence and allowed them to participate in that presence and that character, the character of God, through the mission he gave them to spread his glory across the world. A people, place, and a presence. And that all comes together here in this text. Revelation 21, verse 3 is my key verse, but I'm going to read 1 through 4 for starters. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people. And God himself will be with them as their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes, and the death will be no more. Neither shall there be mourning, nor crying, nor pain anymore, for the former things have passed away." Verse 3 is that key verse, as I said, the voice saying, "Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. He will dwell with them, and they will be his people, and God himself will be their God." Notice that there's a dwelling place, and he will dwell with them. A people for God and a place to live with God. There it is, all wrapped up into that one verse. Using two metaphors in the opening verses, 1 and 2, that it's the new city of Jerusalem coming down from God, a city built by God. And also, mixing the metaphors, this new city is a bride adorned for her husband. Speaking of the intimate relationship God now has with his people, that they've been restored to him, and now they'll get to enjoy that sweet fellowship with the living God forever and ever. And so that by itself is a wonderful meditation, but I want to just poke at a couple other metaphors that tie in with what we've been talking about this week in Revelation 21 and 22. You remember in 1 Kings 6 that it talked about the Holy of Holies as a cube. Read it one more time, 1 Kings 6:20. This is the temple Solomon's building. The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high. That's a cube. And he overlaid it with pure gold. And then it goes on to say everything's overlaid with gold. He overlaid the altar of cedar with gold. He overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold. And he drew chains of gold across. And you get the idea. There's a lot of gold. Everything's overlaid with gold. So this is the picture. And we noted yesterday that that picture also had engraved in it pictures of cherubim, pictures of palm trees and flowers and gourds. It's a garden picture. So that theme that is foreshadowed in Solomon's temple is really developed beautifully here in Revelation 21 and 22. Let's start with verse 15, Revelation 21, verse 15. "And the one who spoke with me had a measuring rod of gold to measure the city and its gates and its walls." The city, and the city they're talking about, is this New Jerusalem that just came down from heaven. The city lies 4 square, its length the same as its width. And he measured the city with his rod, 12,000 stadia. Now, we don't measure things in stadia in our culture, but that's well over 1,000 miles. That's this is a big measurement. 12,000 stadia. Its length and width and height are equal. It's a huge cube. I don't think the point is to give us a picture, a literal picture of what it'll look like, although maybe, but I don't think that's the point here. The point is that it's drawing your attention to the fact that this is the perfect inner sanctuary, the Holy of Holies. Note too, in verse 18, it says, "The wall was built of jasper, while the city was pure gold, like clear glass." And then verse 21, 12 gates were 12 pearls, each of the gates made of single pearl. And the street of the city was pure gold, like transparent glass. So we've got this rich ornately decorated with precious stones. All those have Old Testament allusions as well. But focusing in on the gold, it's a city of gold, and it's a perfect cube, this massive cube gold city, pointing again at the verse 3, God will live with his people, and his people will live with their God. We are living now in the majestic throne room of heaven. Heaven and earth are now the same place. One more picture to land on, the picture of garden. We get that in the river and the tree of life. Hear it in Revelation 22, verses 1 through 5. Then the angel showed me the river of the water of life, bright as crystal, flowing from the throne of God and of the Lamb. This is where this river of life is flowing from. This is the life-giving power of God through this river of life. Verse 2, through the middle of the street of the city. What city? The New Jerusalem. This is right in the city. Also on either side of this river, in this city, the tree of life, with its 12 kind of fruit, yielding its fruit each month. The leaves of the tree were for the healing of the nations. No longer will there be anything accursed, but the throne of God and of the Lamb will be in it, and his servants will worship him. They will see his face, and his name will be on their foreheads. And night will be no more, and they will need no lamp or sun, for the Lord God will be their light, and they will reign forever and ever. So I just want to draw out those key themes. This city will be a garden city. It'll be a city with a river in it. It'll be a city with the tree of life in it on both sides of the river. And its fruit will give life, and its leaves will give healing. This is mediating to God's people in his beautiful garden city, God's life. God is sustaining his people and his city with his own life. So, one more thing that I read in verse 4, they will see his face and his name will be on their foreheads. What's that got to do with it all? Well, that does go back to our image-bearing creation. We were made to be image bearers. So as we behold his face and his name is on our foreheads, it's not talking about whether we're going to have Yahweh up here. I don't believe. It's saying that the very character of God, his name, is now reflected in our faces. And so that we are restored image bearers. We're living for his glory. We are a loved people. We are his bride. We have been given a life-giving place to live, the beautiful garden city of the living God, sustained by his power. And we get to see God as he is, and so that our faces will shine with his glory. Beautiful picture. Now you might say, well, what does that do for me today, Pastor? What does that do for my life lived right now? And quite a bit. I'm going to quote John Piper. He has a nice little book just out on COVID-19 and reflecting about it. And listen to what he says here about hope. The object of hope is future. And what we've just studied this morning is future. The experience of hope, he goes on to say, though, is present. And that present experience is powerful. Hope is power, present power. Hope keeps people from killing themselves now. It helps people get out of bed and go to work now. It gives meaning to the daily life, even lockdown, quarantine, stay-at-home life now. It liberates from the selfishness of fear and greed now. It empowers love and risk-taking and sacrifice now. I think he's really insightful right there. That's well said. Hope is future, but it has present power now to help us live. Furthermore, we would want as much of that future reality to be in our hearts and lives right now. As much heaven as possible as we can get. It speaks, I would say, centrally to our heart motives. In other words, we were made for God's glory. So today, make that our mission, God's glory. If we realize that that's what we were designed for, that's what we live for. Crave godliness. May our first love be knowing and being like God. And disposition of submission. Might our decisions all be motivated by a submission to God and his authority? Well, some things to think about today and to pray about. May God bless you and keep you.